Snaking its way through the countryside of Southern Virginia, this beautiful 3.2-mile strip of asphalt has been around since 1957. But now, for the second time in 3 years, the Virginia International Raceway is home to the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Welcome to the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. My name's John Phippen, and so glad to be with you on this rainy day here at Virginia International Raceway. We had quite a bit of a storm blow through. Many of us are without power at our hotels, but fortunately here at VIR the power is on and the power is about to hit the racetrack as our first race of the day is coming up. A little change in the schedule that from what was originally published today, as we're going to squeeze the Formula X race, which originally was to be run at the end of the day yesterday, into the morning. And so all of the races today, the time limit has been shortened to 35 minutes rather than the 40 that we had yesterday. The lap time still 15 laps, and I think we got all 15 laps in all of our races yesterday, with one exception. The late race in the afternoon was foreshortened because of an extended full course yellow, but nonetheless, this one is going to be our first race of the day, and it is also our smallest field of the runoffs. Joining me in the commentary booth is Lefty McLeod, four-time Solos champion and this year's Solo Driver of Eminence. Quite an honor, Lefty, and I'm honored and humbled to be seated next to you.
Well, thank you. No, I'm excited to be here. I love coming to the runoffs, love watching this, and then now with this weekend with a little bit of weather mixing things in, it's going to be interesting. This morning should at least have consistent weather. It's a light mist. Should be consistent track conditions for the entire race.
Exactly. And the third member of our broadcast team, the SCCA Senior Director of Rally Solo and Experiential Programs, is Hayward Wagner, and he's down on the grid. Hey, Hayward, good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. We have, at the moment, nothing falling out of the sky, which is a radical shift from where we've been for the last 24 hours. The 3 board is going up here on the grid. I'm looking over my shoulder right here. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with the 3 cars. Robert Noel, they're pulling the nose off of it under 3 minutes on the grid, which is extraordinarily unconventional, but we'll find out what's going on with that. 5 cars on this grid this morning, a little bit of diversity. Robert Noel, as I mentioned, is in the Formula Mazda. We got a couple of cars that are running what we call the Formula Ford 2000 or Formula Continental chassis. It should be a really good race between a couple of youngsters at the front of the grid. I did just talk to the guys at Hoosier. Everybody in this race is on the same tire. Hoosier does not believe that there's going to be enough water pumped off the track during this race for it to matter. And when I say that, they're not going to have to manage the tires. It's going to be wet enough for the full race that they can run full pace. You shouldn't see any jumping off of the race line to cool the tires, those sorts of things. But at the moment, we are not raining. We are wet, but we are not raining.
Thanks, Hayward. Appreciate that setup, and it is dampish for sure. But Lefty, you've had a chance to talk to just about everybody in this 5-car field. What can you set us up with?
Yeah, I talked to a few of them in the last couple of days. Some of them have been to the runoffs in the past, notably our Polesitter Trevor Russell. Austin Hill also ran in this race last year, finishing second and third, so they're certainly contenders to watch for. Both of them, those young men, they have definitely going to correct their mistakes from last year and go out here on a very full wet setup. I talked to Austin Hill's dad and talked to Austin quite a bit yesterday. Last year at Indy, because of the potential for mixed conditions, they didn't go out on a full wet setup, decided to take a gamble this time around. Even just about 20 minutes ago, he had said, yeah, we're going full on wet setup. Trevor kind of doing the same thing. Robert Noel, interesting in that Formula Mazda. Hopefully that car's all right. I saw a few notable faces there. In fact, I saw Austin Hill's father. Looks like he was helping him a little bit. Right. And Rob Aller, who runs over an FC with his son Nolan, saw him working on that car. So it looks like it's all hands in to help Robert get that going. Robert already has had a rough week. Swapped a motor after Thursday's qualifying, blew a motor up, so I saw him Friday morning trying to squeeze in the rotary into the back of that Formula Mazda. Looks like at least he's good to go now.
Exactly. Just waiting for the cars to roll off the grid, and then we'll introduce the 5 starters for you. Again, this is our smallest field of the runoffs with only 5 cars, but they are potent, and there's kind of an interesting mix. The Star Formula Mazda, which we talked about for Robert Noel, and a couple Van Diemens, most likely in Formula Continental trim. Austin Hill is in the Elan DP08, which is the USF 2000 chassis, and then the Megale Formula Continental Ford Z-Tech the only driver with significant runoffs experience, Kevin Fandozzi. This is his 11th or 12th runoffs, and he is a former champion. He won the T3 championship in 2012. So Kevin Fandozzi, the only diplomat, I guess I should say. So let's just quickly introduce the 5 starters. The number 72 car starts alone in row 3. Dimitrios Zemetsis, Mamaroneck, New York, and the New York region in his Van Diemen. Starting outside of row 2 is car number 3, Robert Noel, in that Star Formula Mazda. He's out of Hempstead, North Carolina, the North Carolina region. Next to him is Kevin Fandozzi, the veteran, in the number 4 car. Kevin out of St. Joseph, Michigan, and the Detroit region in his Megale Formula Continental Ford Z-Tech. And then the front row, the 2 youngsters who are sports cars picks to finish atop the box. The number 8 is Austin Hill out of Frankfort, Ohio, in the Ohio Valley region, my home region, in the Elan DP08 Mazda. And the pole sitter is the number 31 of Trevor Russell out of Tucson, Arizona, in the Arizona region. He's in a Van Diemen RF Ford. Looking at lap records, they did not run here in 2019. FX was not a national class in 2019, so we don't have runoffs records, but we do have a race lap record for the Formula X class set by Matt Clark, the eventual champion of the USF Juniors championship this season. And his lap was a 153.1. That's a race lap. The qualifying lap, the pole lap by Trevor Russell, a 151.4, 2 seconds quicker. So I think it's safe to say we'll see a new race lap record set here today. With the damp track, probably not quite that quick, but in dry track conditions, these are very quick cars indeed. We're going to go to the track map to just give you an idea of what we've got in this 3.27 mile, 17 turn circuit. Lefty, take us around.
Sure. Downhill braking into one is always going to be treacherous, and with a pack of cars, it's going to be interesting to watch there. Lots of side-by-sides. They come out of 1 and start running up through the kink at 2 and through the famous NASCAR bend at 3. Again, could be slippery, could be multi-cars wide through there, and then finally into the left hook there at 4. Come around left hook and head down through that snake. A little undulation, but mostly flat in these cars, and then head to the climbing S's. That 7, 8, 9 complex, always fast, could be interesting, and then throw it into South Bend. Very famous off-camber, high-speed left-hander down the hill, back up the hill, and around the famous Oak Tree Bend, now minus the oak tree. They go down the longest straightaway on the track. Lots of opportunity for passing as they get to the top of the roller coaster and click, click, click. They go running down the roller coaster and head finally to throw it across the hog pen bend to get them back onto the front straight.
Indeed. So that's the lay of the land, if you will. And again, just to recap, for those of you who weren't with us yesterday, we had pretty significant storms blow through yesterday, sort of the remnants of Hurricane Ian, which gave its devastation to the Florida Peninsula, and then out in the Atlantic took a left-hand turn and hit the South Carolina coast earlier this morning.
I'm only seeing 4 cars on track. I do not see our Formula Mazda yet of Robert Noel, who actually is probably one of the veterans here. He ran in the Formula Mazda class in 2019, finished on the podium that year. He's the one who done the motor swap here just a couple of days ago, in fact, yesterday morning. Don't see him yet. So maybe we'll get a report on whether or not he was able to roll off or what the plan is there with Robert.
We are getting a word that he may have pulled off. I would hope that he's still making repairs and would be able to start from the pit lane, but sounding like he may have pulled off on this formation lap. So we'll see if they're going to go ahead and go green or if he's got that car in a place of safety. Noel, as you said, with 7 runoff starts, and he finished second here in the Formula Mazda class in 2019 when it was still part of the national
and it was wet conditions, so I think he was licking his chops at the opportunity here this morning. So rough to see that he may not be able to make the race.
Exactly. So we've got 4 of the 5 cars lining up behind the safety car, and we are getting ready for a start here. Again, all the races today will be 15 laps or 35 minutes, which is shortened just because we've got to squeeze this extra race in that originally was scheduled for tomorrow, or yesterday afternoon, excuse me, as we are waiting for the green. You can see the amount of spray these cars kicking up as they're the first cars out on track. And there's the green, and we're away side by side at the front as the 2 youngsters, Trevor Russell and Austin Hill, dueling for that spot as they come into turn number 1, and it looks like the 31 of Trevor Russell, the Polesitter, is going to slot into the front. You can see they're hunting for grip, and there's a spin already by the 72 of Zemetsis.
Wasn't even able to get the stickers off of his rain tires on that outlet. I wonder if that hurts him a little bit. You had seen the other ones like Russell and Hill. They were doing a lot of scrubbing. That may be paying off right now. They got a little bit of heat in their tires. It doesn't look like Zemetsis was able to do that, but he is moving again.
Yeah, he's able to get it back going, so that's certainly a good scene. But
and I've got word that Robert Noel did head back to paddock, unfortunately, so we'll see he's out of this race.
That's tough. That's a tough break for him. So we've got 4 cars surviving, and they are making their way through the lower S's, or the snake, for the first time. Pretty comfortable lead for Trevor Russell. Looking at his qualifying time, a 151.4. Austin Hill, who qualified second in the Elan Mazda, of 153.8. So in dry track conditions, Trevor Russell should have this race pretty much in hand. And at least in the early stages, that's the way it's looking. But these conditions are so treacherous. These drivers are really going to have to be careful, because once you get off track, it is a long ride through the wet grass.
Fandozzi and the Miguel really being patient right now with Austin, kind of feeling things out. He looks a little bit tentative out there in these conditions, where Kevin looks like he wants to be a little more racy and willing to push. Kevin in dry conditions was a couple seconds off the pace of Austin and Trevor from qualifying, but Kevin in these conditions looked like, hey, this is the great equalizer. The veteran experience, even if it's not so much in this car, seems to be paying off for him.
Yeah, Russell well out in front as this battle for the final 2 steps on the podium. The youngster Austin Hill with the advantage as they head into the roller coaster. 130 feet of vertical drop as they jump over the hill, making their way down to the famous hog pen turn, the final turn on the racetrack. But this has been the scene of a lot of incidents. All it takes is just to get about a foot too wide of that apex, and you're off in the grass, and that is a 720 coming up pretty much. Austin Hill stretching his advantage now on the front straightaway.
Yeah, just a little bit there, so maybe going to be able to get a better run coming down through Hog Pen as Russell continues to fly around this place and still pushing his margin. He can't even see his mirrors to see if anyone's behind him. He doesn't seem to care. He looks like he's just ready to fly. Now, he's got, if anything, a little bit of an advantage over the other guys in the class, as he ran the FF race yesterday morning, which was kind of a little bit later than this is this morning, but similar conditions,
right,
where a little bit of spray was coming down, lots of water on the track. So he's already seen where the puddles are, what you need to avoid, and where the good grip spots are. So it could be a bit of an advantage paying off for him. Austin Hill's second race is going to be later today. He'll be in the Formula Atlantic race, running his F3 car. But unfortunately for him, this is now his sighting laps. Maybe he'll use that to his advantage in the FA race later on.
And sadly, even in this early stage, he's not close enough to Trevor Russell to figure out what lines he is using. As Russell, you can see, not necessarily running on the dry racing line, especially around the first turn, the horseshoe on the outside. That's where the grip is, because the pavement not smoothed down over with lots of years of running. This track was repaved a number of years ago, so it's still pretty fresh, but the grip in the wet is not always where the dry racing line is, because of the pavement, the sharp edges of the pavement being smoothed off.
A lot more comfortable looking there for Austin Hill going through Oak Tree. Whereas on the first lap, so super tentative, and Kevin Fandozzi was right on his tail. This time, Austin kind of throwing it out, even using some of that painted curbing you'd seen there on that shot, where Kevin Fandozzi in the gray car there went all the way across it, hunting for the actual pavement beyond the curbing. Might not be a bad line to take there. Austin, at least comfortable enough to kind of throw it in and try to get a run, fending off Kevin Fandozzi. Try to keep a little further back in his mirror. So we'll keep our eyes on that pace and how close Austin can stay with Trevor's pace and kind of make a race out of this for the lead.
Kevin Fandozzi won his most recent championship in T3 at Road America, as we mentioned in the run-up. 2 years prior to that, Kevin was the recipient of the Mark Donohue Award. That is presented by the Road Racing Drivers Club for outstanding performance, sportsmanship, and competitiveness in SCCA Road Racing. It's one of the season-ending, very prestigious awards, very similar to the Solo Driver of Excellence that my cohort here was awarded this season at Topeka. But little bit of loose there as
little on the edge of that curbing is very treacherous. You get the concrete piece, then you get the painted part beyond it. It is very slippery, but you can see at least on his turning point, aiming for the grippier stuff there is Trevor, trying to find a way around it. Here through the snake, there's not many options. You just sort of plow right across it, maybe try to just be smooth with your hands, smooth with your feet as you reapply the gas. Doing a very good job right here, continuing to set fastest sectors and starting to really pull away from Austin and Kevin behind him. And I don't see sector times for Demetrius. I'm wondering if he may have pulled it back in.
Yeah, after that spin, he may have decided he wasn't going to continue with this one.
But look at the car, a little twitchy coming around South Bend. That's a scary place to have a twitchy race car. So not being super smooth is Trevor. He's pushing hard, despite having about a 10-second lead on the others here, Austin and Kevin.
Yeah, after just 2 laps, just under a 10-second lead. And we're about to see what it's going to be like here after the 3rd lap.
Well, like I mentioned, that Trevor did have that race in FF yesterday, so he may be feeling very comfortable. I talked to him afterwards. He finished 2nd in that race. He was pretty happy with the result. However, he was not happy with the setup. He felt the car was too stiff, made the mistake going out there not soft enough.
Right.
He was going to fix that mistake here. It looks as though he's got a car at least under him that's, even if it looks a little twitchy, maybe it's recoverable. It's one of those where you can throw it in a little bit, you can feel the slide, feel the weight transfer. It's a lot easier to drive that way. And then when I talked to Austin and his father, they were talking about the same sort of thing. Soften everything, disconnect sway bars as soft as the car can go, and really let the car move around a little bit. And Austin's had a lot of experience this year. Been running in the FRP Formula Atlantic Series. In fact, it looks like he may have the championship locked up there in that series.
Yep.
Been running in his F3 car. Wow, he's moving pretty good around Hog Pen.
Yeah, no kidding.
But all that seat time has really been paying off, running multiple classes, multiple cars, and getting very comfortable at his young age. He's only 15 years old, so very young, where you consider Kevin Fandozzi a few years older than him, trying to chase him down. So a lot of experience against a lot of youth, but the youth is picking up their seat time at a young age.
You can really see in these open wheel cars the effects of the aero, the underbody aero, especially of that big rooster tail coming up off the back of these cars. And these cars aren't particularly heavy in underbody. They don't have, downforce tunnels under the cars, but just the wings and the diffuser at the back generate that big rooster tail. And Austin getting a little squirrely there through NASCAR.
A little brave on that turn in, and when it twitches at mid-corner, he's got nowhere to go but to the outside. And you hope you can get the car caught back up before you get to the grass. He did just that, so managed to continue. Sector time still a little bit off what Trevor's running out in front of him. Trevor now up to about a 13-second lead, but Austin slowly maybe pulling away, or at least keeping the gap consistent to Kevin behind him.
Let's talk a little bit about the genesis of this Formula X class. It was really kind of a, I don't want to say catch-all because that sort of minimizes it, but it was an opportunity for cars that don't fit easily into one of the other Formula categories, Formula Atlantic, Formula Continental. The F4 US chassis, the Ligier, is eligible for this class, I know, and the USF 2000 cars, which we've already talked about. So
a couple of them out there,
yeah. So it's kind of where the Formula Mazdas have landed when since they're no longer a national class.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I think, how this came about, was the Formula Mazda class. Just the participation numbers have been down. The chassis they're a little older. They're a little bit well worn and well seasoned, and those tube frame chassis don't last forever. And so I think the idea here was, let's try and bring in some of the F2000s particularly, and then also mix those with whatever's left on the others. And it seems to be working pretty well. We don't have as much diversity here with just the one Formula Mazda entered, and the rest are essentially all the F2000 cars. I do know that Trevor Russell's car is his FC car, straight up, no changes.
Yep.
Although he can, in this class, he can run the Avon tires if it were dry, as opposed to the spec tire that run an FC. But other than that, really, it is just his FC car, which is the other cars, like this one here of Demetrius Desmetsis, is just the Mazda transplanted FC car. So very good to be able to bring those in. The numbers down a little bit from Indy last year, and that's a bit surprising if you ask me. I think we had 15 in this class entered a year ago, which was the ones in the front were all the F2000 cars. Right. But we had a driver out there last year in what was known as a fast-forward Mazda Speed Formula 2.0, which was a very different type of a very tall, much larger footprint car, and he did quite well, put it just outside the podium there. So it's good to see something different come along, and I think this year, unfortunately, just not the same numbers. Numbers are across or down. I think maybe we'll see a bit of that recovery, hopefully, for next year when we come back. But I think here in this class, they may have suffered a bit. I think there is some good parity. I think there is opportunity for other chassis to be competitive. But it's also a good chance for some of these young drivers who do run the F2000 to come out here and show their talent at the runoffs.
Exactly right, and there are some very talented drivers in these series. I'm fortunate enough to be the series spokesman for the F4 US Championship and the Formula Regional Americas Championship, really breeding grounds for drivers coming right out of go-karting. And you know, the minimum age for our series, the F4 series, is 15, and so Austin Hill would fit right into a F4 US Championship car. If Austin's family is listening, we'd love to have you on our series. But you know, these youngsters coming right out of go-karting really need an opportunity for a relatively budget-friendly way for them to go racing, and these cars are just that, just fit that bill pretty much perfectly. As the 72 of Zemetzis. Yep, looks like he is calling it a day or heading into the pit lane with an issue of some kind. So that leaves 3 cars running. We understand that's the minimum for a national champion to be awarded. So 3 cars hopefully will get to the finish, and we'll have.
And it's still a good little battle between these two.
Yeah, this one's not over yet.
The youth against the veteran here is a lot of fun to watch. Big slide there for Austin Hill coming down Hog Pen. Again, able to keep it on the track. But he's pushing. He's definitely finding it. Meanwhile, out in front, Trevor Russell is continuing to set fastest sectors up and down. So his pace is pretty strong. But these guys are awfully closely matched between these two. The Elan is, again, just a F2000 Mazda powered, where Kevin Fandozzi's car is more of a traditional FC car there, I believe, in his Mygale.
As you look at lap times, they were about a second apart on that last lap, and Fandozzi was the quicker. So he is reeling in Austin Hill. And the interesting thing with these rain tires, you would think that, well, the rain tires are going to go away on this dry-ing track. But actually, they work the best when they get a little temperature into them. And in these chilly conditions and with this damp track, it takes a while to get these tires up to temperature. And it could be that Fandozzi's tires are just coming in and he's feeling a little more confident.
Yeah, I think the confidence builds up with these guys as they get used to where the drier line is, the less wet line. But as you say, for sure, as they get some heat in these things, they start to soften up a little bit. But as the race develops, especially if we're not getting more rain put down, you'll start to scrub these tires. They will start to go away a little bit over the course of these 15 laps, and they're on pace to probably get the 15 in at this point. That means the last couple laps could be treacherous. We've seen that yesterday in I think it was in the FF race and even the Spec Ford race, where they were starting to wear those tires down towards the end. And you know, some of those drivers who had pushed early might have been paying the price. These two guys seem to be pushing, and a lot of sliding going on. So we'll see which one of these two has any tire left coming into this race.
As we're approaching half distance of this 15-lap event, let's just take a brief moment and thank some of the partners making this broadcast possible.
Focus, guys. We're in a race to the finish, okay?
Here's where the rubber meets the road.
These initiatives move the needle, like, at all?
Well, let's shift gears a minute.
We're really kind of at the apex here.
We need to put the pedal to the metal. We need to nail those hairpin turns, cross that finish line, and take that checkered flag. Woo!
Hit the track with the world's largest motorsports calendar, track day insurance, and more. Haggerty. Let's drive together.
Introducing the first ever Mazda CX-50.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why indeed?
Welcome back to a very wet Virginia International Raceway, as we are our first race of the second day of the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs for Formula X, and it is a dandy for second and third spot, as Austin Hill in the early stages looked like he was going to be able to pull away from the veteran Kevin Fandozzi, but Fandozzi is keeping the youngster honest and is right on his gearbox, as our leader, Trevor Russell, well out in front. Last time by the stripe, it was, don't have it just at the moment because we're still waiting for the second place car to come across the line, but
it's probably up over a 30-second gap now between Trevor and the Austin-Kevin battle happening behind Trevor. Again, just reset fastest lap of the race, as Demetrius had gone into the pits for a minute, back out. Now he looks like he's having some more trouble. The car a little bit loose for him this morning as we catch a replay. As he's coming down roller coaster, you can see his hands just moving to keep up, catching a little bit of that curb on the inside, and in the rain, that is a dangerous thing to try. Sends him around, keeps him on pavement, it looks like, but not before doing the full Danny Sullivan spin to get it back going again.
Yeah, Zemetzis unfortunately is 3 laps down to the leaders, but he's out there soldiering on to try to get as many points as possible. Also realizing that if one of these guys falls out, he can be on the podium. So right at the moment, the battle we've been following is this one for second, as Trevor Russell now 28 seconds out in front. But this battle for second and third is still a good one, and it's a bit of an ebb and flow, as Austin was able to jump out to a pretty comfortable lead in the early stages, but Fandozzi's gradually been reeling him in. And now the interval at the line, at least, was just about a second and a half. So Austin appears to be a little resurgent here as he's beginning to push a little harder to see if he can draw away. We are working race lap number 8, so we're pretty much at half distance right now of this 15-lap affair. And again, the races today shortened to 35 minutes, and we're just passing the halfway point of the time limit. So it'll be kind of neck and neck as whether we'll get all the laps in or whether the time will be the determining factor. Oh!
A little slide there for Kevin coming off of the oak tree bend as he got a little bit greedy with the skinny pedal on the right. And got the back end sliding just a bit, able to recover. But I was just going to say, actually, really starting to see, I know it looks heavy mist and it's difficult to see. There are still some there are very few puddles out there. It's at this point just sort of a skim of water across, just kind of a damp surface everywhere. And I think these guys are starting to see, you may actually start seeing a little bit of tire wear in some spots. Now it looks like here coming down roller coaster, especially at the top where Demetrius had his spin just about a lap ago, it does look very treacherous. Kevin taking the same line Demetrius did, really risking it here. But look at this, that little bit of a slip there. Oh, that's our leader. That's Trevor Russell.
Indeed, Trevor Russell off the track. That looks like that it's at turn 1. We have seen a lot of offs there as you leave the braking just a little bit too late and you are over the hill. We've got a great replay of it.
He comes down, he's hot all the way into the braking zone and just locks him up. I would suspect never actually locked up a little bit of a puff on the right front, but not enough where he just decided to nose straight out and let the car recover. Has enough of a margin to still hold that lead, but that lead has dwindled quite a bit.
Exactly, and just an indication that with these treacherous conditions, anything can happen. This is not a foregone conclusion here, as he is going to be a little more circumspect, I'm guessing, until he gets back into his rhythm as he makes a way under the bridge and heads for the very treacherous climbing S, as treacherous in these conditions. And he'll be staying off the curbs, as you can see, as these cars, even as they are softened up to get a little more mechanical grip for these damp conditions, are still pretty stiffly sprung. And if you ride the curves in the wet, it is definitely not going to end well, let's just say.
Well, he was getting
beside
a little
the
bit
fact
greedy.
that the curbs are slippery. But
yeah, he was getting a little bit greedy, I think, as you start to get into that rhythm and you start to push and you push and you push. And if, let's say, the mist just turns the wick up just a little bit on you, suddenly you got a little bit more water. And he's also seemed to be using a little bit more of the track left entry and braking zone coming down into 1. That's where all the really slippery parts of the pavement are. It's a lot grippier down the inside. Obviously not your ideal line for corner right, except when you're dealing for grip and you're hunting for it, you go wherever the grip goes. He may have found himself a little bit too far to the left and got himself into that runoff. But lucky for him, had a margin built and able to hold back onto it just enough to where the second sector, he set fastest sector of the race there in the second sector. So he was able to put that spin in 1 behind him already and continues to motor on.
We've said this adage pretty much throughout the weekend. It's, you know, race drivers have to have short memories. You know, you make a mistake, everybody makes them. You make a mistake, you got to put it behind you and just, you know, put your attention forward.
Apparently for Trevor, his memory is all of about 20 seconds. He was hammered down as soon as he got through the snake and back down towards South Bend, which is where that's where that sector 2 is. So he decided to just go with it, realized maybe that mistake was just a one-corner issue, and thought, what the heck, let's just hammer and go, get back in that rhythm, and he did just that. These guys, though, look at, there's still a lot of spray coming up, so I suspect perhaps there's a little bit of mist still coming down out there.
Waiting for Austin to come across the line. Trevor only lost 3 seconds of his lead. It was 28 or almost 29, and now it's 25 seconds. So despite that off-course excursion, he didn't lose a significant amount of his interval first to second.
And even if the rain has stopped, the other thing is the wind yesterday afternoon was pretty strong with that hurricane, the remnants of it blowing through. The wind was blowing very hard. When you saw the spray go up off cars, it just immediately exited. Today, the spray just sort of hangs. It doesn't seem to really be going anywhere. So while these tires are pumping water, they're not really pumping it anywhere. It's just sort of dropping right back down. The wind is not blowing water off the track. And honestly, with only 3 cars out there moving, there's not enough water pumping going on. And so for these guys, maybe the conditions are consistent. Maybe they're expecting it to be better, and it just isn't getting there yet.
Yeah, we have 2 more open wheel classes coming up later today. Formula V, Lefty and I will be back with you at 10:30 for that one. And we'll also see Formula Atlantic after the lunch break. Greg and Lefty will be giving you that one at 1:45. And those are classes significantly more subscribed than this one. So it'll be interesting to see what the condition of the track is as the forecast continues to be for rain throughout the day today. With that many of these open wheel cars kicking up spray, visibility really becomes an issue. These cars are spread out enough that it's not that much of a problem for this race at least.
Yeah, and I wondered at least for a while there if Kevin was keeping that 1 to 2 second gap because of that, just sort of feeling things out, able to keep the visibility, not get stuck in the spray. But now with, you know, maybe Austin is getting into a bit of his own rhythm, has pulled away a couple of more tenths that lead now up to 3 seconds between Austin, and with only about 5 laps to go, time may be running out for Kevin. He's going to have to really start to push. Meanwhile, our leader just went fastest trap speed of the race, 130 miles an hour down the back straight. You can see him there. A little more track center, even though he's still braking towards the left a little bit, maybe not as much as he was, maybe a little bit earlier than he did on his off a moment ago.
Yeah, exactly right. And of course, you know, the drivers, he's I'm sure getting communication from his pits. He knows how big a lead he has, and the temptation is to, I'll just take it easy. I'll motor around at 8/10, and that can really throw your rhythm completely off. And these drivers need to keep their focus forward and just hit their marks and keep doing what they're doing. They don't want to get too complacent because that's when mistakes get made and you find yourself off in the grass.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Trevor has an 8/10 gear at this point. He's you know, very heady kid. Talking to him a little bit, he is the mechanic for that car. He does all of his own repairs and setup and everything. You know, he had a little bit of damage to the front nose cone there. Had just fixed that all up himself, repainted it himself, restickered it, the whole thing. So he knows this race car inside and out. And I'm sure as he's out there, he's thinking about all the little things, listening to the race car, feeling the tires, as just a very heady kid. And maybe knew that one mistake was just a one-time thing, and he needed to go back and start hitting those marks again, because 9/10 sometimes get you out of that rhythm.
Exactly. And again, he is nice catch indeed. But he seems to be very much in command. Very, very calm hands. He's not making, you know, quick, rapid corrections. So clearly, he's feeling comfortable with the car right now.
Well, as we flash back to Fandozzi, I had just, right before the camera switched over, I noticed he had just run some personal best sectors and taken a couple of tenths out of Austin Hill's lead. So kind of keep an eye on this. I suspect now at this point in the track, probably down to around 2 seconds. Kevin may be realizing it's a bit of go time now to see if he can make a move in the last couple of laps to try and catch up to Austin. This could be fun.
Yeah, working race lap 11, about to start that 12th lap as the clock counting down to just over 10 minutes remaining. So it'll be a little touch and go whether we'll get all 15 laps in, but it's going to be pretty close.
Austin reacting there a little bit, was able to pick up a couple of tenths back there in the second sector after giving a few tenths to Kevin in the first sector. So these guys just trading sectors back and forth. That lead again about 2.5 seconds as they come down roller coaster. But the leader just reset fastest third sector, which is this sector we're seeing right here coming down roller coaster to Hog Pen.
And the fastest trap speed again as well. 131 and some change.
Which means he's pushing the exit at 12 at Oak Tree. He's feeling comfortable to get the launch off of there. That's how you get it.
Yeah, the speed trap is just before the braking zone for the roller coaster on the back straightaway.
And he's about 4 miles an hour faster than the other guys are in trap speed. That's a lot.
Yeah, no kidding. Which would, indicate that he's got the car trimmed out a bit, you would think. But, in these conditions, I would think you'd want all the downforce you could crank onto the car. But again, aero not as important on a damp track as mechanical grip. So.
They do crank some in, though. I'm talking to Austin and his father. They cranked in all the aero they could. You look at their wing attack is a lot more here than if it were a dry condition. So anything they could get to try and help the car push to the ground, push that water away, is whatever they can do. And you can see the angle attack on that rear wing. The whole wing is just tipped forward to try and help.
Yeah. Looks like he spun backwards into the tire barrier as that car has really got the wing cranked up as he heads under the bridge and just by our commentary position. Makes his way in the uphill climbing S's.
He's cranked it back up again. Again, look at that sector times. He was quicker than Kevin in the first sector again.
Kevin also beginning to flirt with the curbs a little bit through the climbing S's as they head down towards South Bend. The final turn, that left-hander, very daunting on a dry track. It is very, very fast and almost blind as the approach to the double apex right-hander, which is the Oak Tree Bend.
And for these guys, you're out there, it's mentally taxing to be able to drive a race car around a track as difficult as VIR. In these kind of conditions, your eyes are constantly hunting for the drier parts of the track. You're feeling every moment, every turn in, every touch of the brakes, every squeeze of the gas, trying to focus on perfection as best as you can find it. It is very mentally taxing. Then you throw in the visibility issues, the fogging issues. Open cars like this, you can't just flip your visor open a little bit. You just have to breathe right into it, and you end up fogging up your own eyes. And so that's all these condition things you have to really think about as these drivers are out there. Even though there's only 3 of them, and you think, oh, they're kind of running by themselves, it is extremely difficult. Meanwhile, the entire time you're just getting soaking wet because all that water, especially for someone like Kevin Fandozzi, who's following Austin Hill, probably getting all that spray right down inside of the cockpit there. For Trevor maybe a little less, as he's been pretty much by himself, but still not a dry event, not exactly the most comfortable way to drive a race car.
Exactly right, and to say nothing of the mental strain, the concentration that you have to really pay attention. Not to say that in dry track you're tooling down the expressway with one hand on the steering wheel, but in the wet you've really got to have your senses dialed up to maximum just to keep the car under you, and so it's mentally taxing as well, mentally fatiguing. So it's early in the day, fortunately for these drivers, and everybody should be fresh, hopefully with a cup of coffee.
I would have needed an IV drip of espresso to be able to run this race at this hour of the morning to keep the focus and concentration for the entire 15 laps. Because these kids are, look at it, just a little bit of a twitch, a little bit of a slide, but he never backs out, keeps the car rolling, gets that exit speed, and continuing to push. His last time by a 2:12.9. None of the other drivers are under a 2:15 yet. Trevor just hitting the marks and just flying around, as Austin looks like he's still flirting with his best laps of the day, just set his best first sector.
Personal best sector for Austin Hill as he is drawing away again from Kevin Fandozzi. Again, about 5 seconds a lap ago across the line, and I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit bigger as he is nice four-wheel drift right out to the edge of the track at the exit of the second apex of Oak Tree, as he is very comfortable with that car.
And personal best second sector, so he's on an absolute flyer right now, doing it back-to-back sectors. Really wants to put Kevin deep behind him, doesn't want to have any sort of contest for that second place spot. Maybe even he thinks he can try and push Trevor if there's any bit of an issue. If Trevor has it off anywhere, Austin's ready to pounce.
Exactly right. Trevor just crossing the line to complete the 13th racing lap, working lap 14.
Yeah, Austin's actually on pace for probably about a 2:13 or 2:14 lap this time by, which would be a personal best lap if he can get this run. That car just looks so twitchy and just dancing all the way down through Hog Pen, but able to get the power down. Look at all that spray coming off all 4 tires, just launching in the air off the wing.
Comes across the line. It is a personal best at 2:14.8. That is still about 0.6 slower than Trevor Russell's last lap at a 2:14.2.
Yeah, well, all of that's the first sector, which is all this right here. Russell was 2 seconds quicker, but in the other 2 sectors, Austin matching and maybe even beating Trevor's times in those sectors. So Austin very good on pace. He just has to figure out this first sector, perhaps this NASCAR 3. Very smooth through there. This is the spots that where Trevor has just been absolutely deadly. He's so fast.
Yeah, and again, Austin using this as a good rehearsal for his Formula Atlantic's stint coming up a little later today.
Which will be interesting because he drives a Formula 3 in that Atlantic race against those Toyota chassis, or the chassis with the Toyota motors in them these days, or even with the Mazdas in them. But Austin running in that Formula 3 may have a shot. Some pretty good straight line speed in that car. If he can get that power down, and now that he has seen the track in these damp conditions, he has a better idea of what he can and can't do.
Yeah. It's a turbo 2-liter motor in that F3 car, and making about 300 horsepower.
Yeah, it's a rocket ship in a straight line.
Yeah, no question. As we are into the closing stages here, as Trevor Russell will be crossing the line to see the white flag next time by.
And speaking of rocket ships, he did just set fastest trap speed at a 1:31.0, but he's flirting with his best sectors in both Sector 1 and Sector 2. This could be another 2:12 lap here, as you know, just on the penultimate lap, he's really flying. Wants to make sure that there is no doubt in this race.
Across the line he comes. The white flag indeed is in the air. He has just put Semetsis another lap down. 4 laps down now is Demetrius Semetsis, but kudos to him for soldiering on out there despite an early problem and a couple spins, an unscheduled pit stop, yet he's still out there competing. That's what the runoffs are all about.
Yeah, Demetrius, a little bit one of the older drivers, managing the global racing team. He's got a bunch of young drivers that run with him in some of the other series that are out there. But here at the runoffs last year, I think he was 6th in this FX class.
Yep.
So it's great to see him back, but maybe just feeling like, this is one of those days in these kind of conditions that's is really for the kids. But he's trying to get that seat time down and show that he's a racer like all the rest, which that's what we're all out here for. You don't pay your entry fee to not run the race. So take your laps and get to see VIR in the wet.
Exactly right. As Demetrius making his way into the climbing S's.
Austin Hill just set his personal best first and second sector, or first sector and second sector, and much closer to Trevor's first sector. So we might actually see Austin now in the 13s if he can finish this lap up. 14.2 actually as he just went on by. So Austin is still putting the pace down, pulling away quickly from Kevin Fandozzi, still back in 3rd.
And there he is making his way through the snake for the final time. As they are approaching the checkered flag, we're going to get all 15 laps in with a little time to spare, about 2 minutes remaining on the countdown clock. So the 35 minutes looks to be just about right for this class.
And Trevor Russell not backing off at all, just at the fastest second sector of the race. Again, second sector is coming out of Snake all the way through the Oak Tree Bend, which to me is some of the most treacherous parts of this track. So he just set the fastest sector there, sets the fastest trap speed, and who knows, maybe he'll set fastest 3rd sector as he's going down roller coaster now with all the beans.
Trevor Russell on his way to his first national championship. He does so in imperious fashion, 35 seconds in front of the rest of the field as the checkered flag is in the hand of the starter, and Trevor Russell fighting some dodgy conditions, but a flag-to-flag victory for the youngster out of Tucson, Arizona, as he'll take his first national championship here at the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. The battle for 2nd and 3rd was a pretty good one through much of the race, but Austin Hill able to put his head down and draw away in the closing stages.
That's a lot of curb.
He has just one more turn to negotiate, and he does make it by the skin of his teeth. So Austin Hill will take the silver medal as he accelerates toward the line as well.
Trevor and Austin last year were 2nd and 3rd on that podium. This year they're going to take a 1-2. Trevor really pushed in that race, thought maybe he had a chance, even led a few moments last year. Probably had that in the back of his mind as he was going under the flag stand to take the checker here today. Austin Hill, a pretty good race for him as well, going his fastest lap of the race, personal best on the final lap. And for Fandozzi, great for him to come in. He looks pretty happy there, giving a quick wave to all the workers as they're the ones doing the tough job today. Kevin going to end up on that podium, though, here in FX.
That'll be his 6th podium in his runoffs career, so he should be pleased with that result as well. So Kevin Fandozzi taking the bronze medal as he's saluting the corner workers and the fans that are here braving the elements this morning.
probably waving to his spotter or his crew sitting up there just above the Pagoda Grill on that balcony. It's a good spot for a lot of the spotters. They can see the exit of 1 all the way into almost to 5. It's probably giving a good wave to them. It's you don't do these things alone.
Oh, you bet you don't. You know, you were talking about Trevor doing the work on his own car, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have help.
He had a couple of guys helping him out, but Trevor's the one that makes all the decisions and does a lot of the wrenching. But sure, he's got his buddy Jay, he's got his father and a few others helping him out. And so, yes, you don't do these things alone, and it is a team effort to win a national championship.
Getting the weather report, no precipitation at the moment from our spotters on the ground out there. But obviously it's very, very humid as we see the unofficial results. Trevor Russell, your winner for his first national championship. Austin Hill finishing a distant second, 36 seconds. The margin of victory. Kevin Fandozzi coming home with the bronze medal. Dimitri Semetsas with some issues, a couple spins and an unscheduled stop. Still out there soldiering on for a 4th place finish. Robert Noel unfortunately did not take the green flag. Problem developed literally on the false grid as they were scrambling to get that car into the field. It's one of those what ifs. Again, Robert, a veteran, would have loved to have seen where he would have fallen in
these conditions. That would have been fun to watch. And for Robert, having been on the podium out here before 3 years ago in the Formula Mazda class in that same car, that would have been a lot of fun. But so unfortunate way to end your runoffs.
It is, but hey, it happens. Yeah, it happens every year. Somebody has a disappointment like that, and unfortunately, Robert.
No disappointment in that group right there, though.
You betcha. As Trevor Russell comes to a stop, you can see the smile in his eyes even before he gets the helmet off, as we'll get a chance to get an interview with him. As right there, Johnny on the spot, as he is all weekend long, is Hayward Wagner. And once Trevor gets unsuited and out of the car,
wet
we'll
gloves
have a chance
tend to
to
stick a little bit. They're really tough to pull off when they're all stuck and all wet and full of water. He might just be floating when he gets out of this car, though.
Got the arm restraints, of course, as the open wheel cars are required to run. And the Hans device. Sounds like Haywood has got our winner, brand new national champion, as we'll get the gold medal on him. Hayward, take it away.
Trevor's going to walk around the car here. We're going to get a couple of words with him. Trevor, I always hate to start an interview with a fresh national champion with "let's talk about your mistake." But turn 1, what happened?
I think a little bit too much front bias, and the right front just locked up and couldn't keep it on the track.
Now, the reason I wanted to ask you about that is, do you realize that you set the fastest sector in the race of the next sector immediately after the off?
Probably. I was pushing pretty hard to catch back up the time I lost.
Well, congratulations on the national championship. You get to do one more lap. Anybody to thank?
Indy Motorsports, my parents, and the car.
Well, congratulations. He's going to take a victory lap. I'm going to stay on and see if we can bring our second place finisher on up. Austin, come on up. Austin. Going to have Austin come on up. Welcome back to the podium here at the runoffs. A silver this time. How was your race?
It was all right. Just couldn't get the rain tires to stay on the track this race, but it was all right. I think we could have used probably newer tires. It was just I couldn't get the rears to stick to the ground at all, so the cars just wanted to spin everywhere. But
how much did you guys change the car for this race?
We changed it last night. I think we were going to race. We changed the rear wing a lot and the front wing to try to get more downforce, but I think we probably could have done a little bit more, but it was really just, I think, the tires more than anything.
Well, congratulations to you on the silver. And if we can stay on, I'll just bring Kevin on up right now. Kevin's walking this way. We got to give Kevin a minute. He's going to shake a few hands. Kevin, another runoffs podium for you. How does it feel to be back?
Oh, it feels great. I was just trying to keep these kids honest. But treacherous conditions, they did a great job. Kudos to them. Congrats.
So you are known a bit in the sport as somebody who gets into a class, promotes it, help grow it. What do you love about FX?
Well, the Formula Car classes are phenomenal for these young kids. FX is great because it allows these guys to come in from different places and race in one place. Give it a couple years and it'll take off. We just got to figure out how to do it.
Well, congratulations on the bronze. We'll see you on the podium.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hayward. Appreciate your ongoing duties down there in the pit lane as our winner takes his victory lap with the checkered flag. And we'll just catch a couple highlights, and most of them are right now at the front, the beginning, as our eventual winner, Trevor Russell, sweeps into the lead. And then the first spin of the race right there at turn 1 as Demetrius didn't quite get the stickers off those tires.
Yeah, and for the other guys here, this is for Austin and for Kevin. About the only time they'd be able to see Trevor was about here, because Trevor quickly walked off in the distance, but not without instances. He decided to, as he said, maybe a little bit of a brake bias issue, got it recovered, quickly started setting fast sectors, and victory was all his.
Exactly it. Not much in the way of highlights, but it's certainly going to be a highlight for Trevor Russell, a day he will remember for the rest of his life. Thanks so much for being with us for this Formula X final, but we've got a lot more racing to go for the 59th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. We'll see you down the road.